We're gathered here today to create a special tier list. Not that all my tier lists aren't special, but I think this one will be particularly good at engagement farming in a way that maybe others aren't, because I expect lots of angry comments from people whose decks I have insulted. But we gotta get our thoughts out there on what the most toxic decks of Edison Format are. Now, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Every deck's at least a little bit toxic, maybe less so in Edison Format, but evidenced by the fact that we have more toxic tiers than non-toxic tiers. We gotta go through and we gotta figure out what belongs where. Now, I want to point out beforehand that this is like a super subjective tier list topic, so yeah, I mean, we're gonna be very opinionated on here, but it's like toxicity is such a vague concept, you know. It's like, I mean, everyone I guess agrees that a deck like Dragon Turbo has a toxic playstyle or whatever, but what does that even really mean? Oh, one other thing I'd like to point out is that we have slimmed down the tier list a little bit, because like the other version that we were doing before had like Gravekeepers and Crystal Beasts, and it was just like cluttered with a bunch of decks no one really plays. I mean, I guess we still got like Gadgets and X-Sabers, but we've talked about it enough. Let's get into it. I think I'm going to start at the bottom this time. We don't usually start at the bottom. Let's start at the bottom. So Jinzo, this deck is pretty toxic, right? I mean, it's just like a meme high roll OTK thing. I'm going to throw it up in like peak toxic. I think this and like Norloris and stuff, because these decks aren't particularly good. They're not that consistent, and they're pretty uninteractive, and they just like try to OTK you. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's the best we can really do is put them here. Yeah, I mean, just because I put a deck in toxic doesn't mean I don't like it, by the way. Like, I think the Jinzo deck's pretty cool and all, but if I'm being honest about the playstyle, I think probably, yeah, you know. Fish deck, this one is a similar deal, actually, to Jinzo. It's probably got to be here, right? I mean, you're just doing, like, Colossal Armory, dumb stuff. You just, like, clear their back row, Colossal Armory, OTK them. It's pretty much, like, the deck. That's what you're doing. It's not very interactive, not very fun to deal with. So, and it's not even good, either, is the thing. It's, like, similar to Jinzo, honestly, so they're both, like, up here. Neospatian. Let's see. This deck can be sacky with like Dark Arm Dragon and Dark Creator and stuff, but it's not really like these two. These two are just like exclusive meme OTK decks. Spatian has like a bit more of a normal play style, where I guess like Dark Creator and stuff, maybe you can argue that's kind of toxic, where you get to that point of the game, you just summon it and start plussing every turn, and they have to have an immediate answer. But it's, like, not that hard to out Dark Creator. I guess, like, the hand ripping with Dolphin, maybe in certain matchups could... I'm going to put it, like... Is it somewhat toxic? Maybe somewhat toxic. I don't know. It's, like... No, I'll put it in non-toxic. I think it's, like, comparable to Blackwings, where it's, like, there's a lot of sackiness sometimes, but it's not, like, particularly toxic in terms of its play style, really. There's just like, there's the power cards, you know, the one-offs, and that's just how a lot of things in Edison are, so I think it's pretty medium. I'm going to put it there. Dark Gaia. So, like, summoning a big dude and randomly killing is annoying, but most of the Dark Gaia decks aren't just, like, full-in meme OTKs. Most of them, at least, like, the actually vaguely viable ones, are, like, different than that. They're playing more, like, good stuff, like the Hamster, Raiko, Caius, with the Quackimera Guardian, Gigantes stuff. I think that build is probably just, like, non-toxic. I guess they have, like, Dyna and Guardian and stuff could be annoying, and summoning the big guy and randomly killing can be annoying, but they're, like... It's not like the version that goes up. No one even plays the version that goes up here. Most of the builds would, I think, fit in here more so I think we'll throw them in non-toxic. Rescue Cat, this is a somewhat toxic for me. The hand ripping is basically the big reason why. I think hand ripping is just very, very, very not okay. I'm not cool with hand ripping in any capacity. And the fact that Cat is always threatening that is pretty... Then again, zombies also are kind of like that now. But I think... how do I feel about it? Zombies are maybe less sacky? I don't know. Actually, is zombies in here? No, that doesn't seem right. Maybe both cat and zombie should actually be down in, like, the medium tier. It's like the hand ripping is annoying, but it's not like the whole strategy is built. It's just like an incidental thing that can happen sometimes. So maybe I'll put them both. I'll put both zombies and rescue cat in here. I was thinking maybe up here, but then it's like, I don't really think zombies belongs up there. You know, cat probably just is like a normal deck in terms of its playstyle for the most part. It just happens to have a couple hand rip cards. And that's like same deal for zombies. So I think both in non-toxic actually is more reasonable. Okay, macro stun. Good God. What is wrong with you, you sicko? That's all I have to say about that. I don't want to elaborate, but, you know, come on. Come on. Monster Mash. I'm going to put this one in somewhat toxic, actually, which I actually really like Monster Mash. It's one of my favorite decks. I really hate how I haven't found a way to make it work at all, because it would be so much fun to do well with Monster Mash. The deck is just bad, though. That being said, it can, like, steal games, especially. It's, like, very matchup dependent and very, like, dependent on your opponent not seeing the correct side deck cards. But you can just, like, it depends on the build, too. Like, the Montage Dragon build will just one-shot, and that's super dumb. So there's a lot of different Monster Mash builds out there, but I would say, on average, probably somewhat toxic is what I'll call it. Just because of, like, how variancy I think it can be, if that makes sense. Gadgets, I'm gonna put them here. Like, they're not at all like these other decks I put in toxic, but they're just, like, boring as crap. I don't know how to. They just, like, summon a gadget and use removal and set back row, and that it's just, like, not fun. You know, I don't know. There's, like, very little complexity to the game plan whatsoever. I guess it's interactive. Maybe you could argue down here, but I just, like, have a pet peeve against gadgets, so I'm gonna put them in somewhat toxic. Fairies, both the fairy deck is just based, like, I don't know. This is one of the most fun decks to watch, I think, in the entire form, if not the number one most fun deck to watch. I just love watching fairy replays. They're always so fun. Like, in pretty much every matchup, I feel like it's super interesting. Very interactive, very complex. So fairies are going in based for me. I'm definitely a fairy enjoyer. Christia Sworn, on the other hand. Oh, man. The question is, do I put Lightsworn in peak toxic or just somewhat toxic? That's the basic thought here. There's arguments for both, honestly. Would I put, like, one up here and one down? No, probably not. I think the Lightsworn decks have to go together, in my opinion. But where do they go together? Are they more like, you know what? They're probably just somewhat toxic. I think they're more akin to, like, Monster Mash than they are to these things up here. These things up here are just, like I mentioned, exclusive meme OTK thing. Like, there's at least some kind of back and forth gameplay going on with these decks, but they are really irritating sometimes, where it's just like, yeah, it's just a race, and they try to draw their like, combos, and they get to their monsters, and they just win, or they mill Wolf, and that's dumb. Yeah, this one mills Wolf, and that's dumb, and this one summons Christia, and that's dumb. So they're, like, comparable. You know, they're high roll, they draw the charge recharge, you feel bad, but probably not on the level of this kind of thing. So I'll put them somewhat toxic. Gemini, this deck's actually pretty toxic. Well, maybe not peak toxic. Probably just another somewhat. Just, like, in here with Lightsworn, I think is fair. They're just, like, trying to draw their combo, you know, and then once they do, it feels impossible to play. So, yeah, that's where... Gladiator Beast, you know what I'm about, people. I mean, I'll talk a little bit, actually. I've talked about it a lot, though, is the thing. But, yeah, playing against Gladiator Beast is just, like, not even playing the game. You're just playing the Gladiator Beast minigame. It's like playing against a modern deck, where you just, like, either you stop them or you don't stop them. And that's about all there is to it. Like, they either snowball out of control, or you get ahead, and then they're just, like, a non-deck because you summoned a 1900 monster that they couldn't out, and that's basically Vanity's Fiend versus their deck. yeah, it's just like super unfun, and there's no like sense of back and forth or resource management. It's just like you slam all your cards on the table in the first round, and if they have the right combination of disruptions, then you lose, and if they don't, then you win. It's like Modern very much in that sense. And they usually don't have the right combination of disruptions, which is why this deck systemically fails to perform at like every level in the format. But they can sometimes. Also, the deck is like the most matchup dependent thing in the entire format. It's just like you're completely RNGing about what you run into. Because if you play against some like low defense graveyard dependent thing, it's just like auto win. But if you play against some high defense thing that someone's beaters, you just lose. It's like it cares more about the type of deck you're playing against than even how good the deck you're playing against actually is. Like it could beat like a top tier deck if it was like Amaryllis or something, and then it would just like could get owned by random jank like KFC if they just summon a Gadgetron, you know. Yeah, everything about Gladiator Beast I just hate, so screw that deck. I know every time I talk about this deck on a tier list, people like post a bunch of angry comments, so apparently Gladiator Beast players do still exist, they just don't top, so you don't know about them. So yeah, they're out there, folks. They exist. They're among you. All right, Blackwing, I'm going to put right in the middle. I compared it to, like, Neospacians earlier. It's like, yeah, Whirlwind, Sacky, you know, Dark Arm Dragon is Sacky. But fundamentally, they're a pretty standard kind of game plan. You know, they're just like an aggro deck. I think they do a lot of positive things in the format, too, in terms of just, like, these decks up in this tier are unplayable because Blackwings exists as such a predominant force, too. It actually filters out, a lot of these decks and like decks similar to these also lose hard to Blackwings. There's a whole lot of like the high toxic stuff that just gets dumpstered by Blackwings. So I'm grateful to them for that, even if I don't love Blackwings. So I think I got to put them in the middle. Frogs. Maybe, I think somewhat toxic. It is just like annoying that you have to contribute, or what's the word? You have to dedicate like half your side deck to this thing just because if you didn't, it would be the dumbest, stupidest thing in the entire format. Like if you just have to pre for Frogs because Frogs are just like this stupid non-interactive control deck that you couldn't otherwise deal with. And they have a somewhat annoying play style where it's just like they get pluses every turn, the Treeborn, and they play low back row. They don't interact so much. They like make you not want to put things on the field. Any deck that makes you not want to put things on the field, like Gladiator Beast, same deal. Inzectors. I don't know why I'm talking about later formats, but yeah, this sort of thing where the deck just makes you not want to commit cards to the field because you're gonna like go neg from doing that. I just like really hate that. But I don't think Frogs are that toxic. They're just like, you know, they're just kind of whatever. Like I said, stupid that you have to dedicate a bunch of your side deck to it, but that's like the worst thing about it. Norlerus is peak toxic. Norlerus is like definitive peak toxic, where it's just like, yeah, I'm going to try to hand rip you turn one, you know? That's what I do. That's my thing. It won't work often, but when it does, you'll want to like throw your deck out the window. So, yeah, just like not even trying to play the game, just trying to engineer a non-game, basically. Pretty toxic. What can you really say about that? Dragons, just because Future Fusion, I'm putting it up here. Like, that's basically how I feel about that. Machina is, like, healthy and fun, I think. You know, it's very, very fair. Hamster Raiko Kaius kind of deck. You got the Machina package, which is strong, but again, very fair. You never really feel like you get sacked. The good builds don't play, like, a limiter removal or anything stupid like that. They're just like a sort of generic control sort of thing. Fun to watch, fun to play against. I like Machina. Flamvel. I'll put Flamvel here. You know, I guess Rekindling, maybe you could argue is a little sacky, but it's like the whole deck is built around that. You know, can we really? It's just like the game plan is to have late game Rekindlings. It's not like some random sack thing. Yeah, I just kind of like Flamvel. You know. It's one of the first decks I played in the format. I always kind of liked it. I always kind of liked the play style of, like, we try to set up and have these big rekindling plays. So, I mean, the deck is not good or anything, but I could call it healthy and fun. I think that's fair. Dragon Turbo. This deck is toxic, but perhaps not as toxic as people think it is. If I don't put it up here, I know people will be mad. I know people will be mad. But my honest feeling is like down here next to frogs or something. Like, I don't know if these are ordered within tiers, actually. They're probably not. But, you know, I consider it similar to frogs in terms of how I feel about it, where it's just like, I dislike it, but I'm not a hater in a way that a lot of people are. Well, I like moderately dislike playing against it, you know, but it's just, I think Dragon Turbo, maybe I would have used to put it up here, but like the modern Ghost Rider build and stuff, that doesn't play True Nade, and it feels a little bit more fair, like more consistent and less high rolly than it used to be. I think I said this before, but I'll put it down here in somewhat toxic. You could definitely argue for up here though. Yeah, it's just like I want to put it lower than I think other people would put it because I don't hate it as much as other people do. So I'll put it here. Amaryllis, I'm putting it here. I love this deck. I don't know, it's just super cool. Maybe this might just be, like, because I invented this deck that I feel this way about it, but, yeah, I just love it. It's just, like, it's like Vayu, but with this weird plant package, kind of, like, very big engine, very interesting, the interactions between the cards. I think if you play a burn, heavier version, maybe you could argue it should be more toxic, I guess, but most of the modern builds, it's just, like, you're just playing a regular deck at this point, basically, you know? You're playing a regular deck that revives Amaryllis. Is a deck a burn deck because it plays 3 Caius? Is Frogs a burn deck? I mean, maybe. But, yeah, it's not really. It's just like a normal deck. And, like I said, I think the deck's super cool. I love it, but I am biased. I'm super biased on this one, so whatever. Kuraz, I'm just going to straight up, I'm putting it in based. It's not good. It's not good by any stretch of the imagination, but... Again, this might be creator bias, actually. This could easily be creator bias, but yeah, I just love the Kuraz deck so much. I love everything it does. I mean, it doesn't do anything too stupid. I guess Garden could be annoying, maybe, but I don't know. Is even Garden that? I guess Garden's annoying. Maybe I can put it here. We'll not put it in based. There, I'll restrain myself a little bit. Hero Beat is just like non-toxic. Yeah, it's just, like, similar to Blackwings, but, like, less sacky even than that. Maybe I even put Hero Beat in Healthy and Fun. Yeah, I'll put it here. I think Hero Beat's pretty healthy and fun, honestly. Like I said, it's like Blackwings, but no Whirlwind, no Dad. Instead, it is actually, like, pretty interesting. I think the mirror is super cool with Hero Beat, too. I think the way you gotta, like, use your cards is neat. Yeah, I don't dislike Hero Beat at all, really. I think it's super fair. I think it's a cool deck. I think, yeah, no one really plays, like, any kind of, like, skill drain oppression version anymore, either. It's just, like, it's just sort of a aggro, grindy deck. I don't know how to... Is it an aggro deck, really? It's more of a controlled... It's kind of, like, mid-range, actually. It's hard to define these things, but... Yeah, I think Hero Beat's just extremely fair. Very interactive. I think it's fun. Okay. X-Saber's peak toxic, definitively. I mean, it is just... It's like Norlers, basically. It's like a worse version of Norlers. Yeah, I mean, you're basically just trying to go off and hand rip their entire hand. And yeah, it's like a high roll combo meme thing, so... Kind of got to be up here in peak toxic. Hand ripping is not okay. Diva Hero is... Is this based? It might just be healthy and fun. I think like OTK is too much to go in based, but yeah, I mean, I like Diva Hero. Diva Hero is like got to be one of the most beloved decks in the entire format. Everyone loves Diva Hero, surely. Just a very cool kind of deck, so no pun intended there with the absolute zero. I'm going to be putting Vayu Turbo up in based, though. I really love Vayu Turbo. I think it's probably one of my faves of the entire like top meta decks. I just really, you know, it's cool how everything got put together and all the synergies between stuff works. And you got the Hamster Raikou for milling. You got like the Gref or Arma stuff that can send Plague or Vayu or Necro Gardna. You can, you know, you got Saki cards, all right. You got Burial Dad, whatever. But every deck has Saki cards, pretty much. I mean, every deck has Brain and Dust Shoot, and so is that really a point against it? I don't know. I just think Vayu's super cool. I love Vayu, so yeah. And then finally, Quick Draw. Got to give some respect to the OG. It goes up here in based, I'm going to say. Kind of like Fairies. I think this is just one of the most fun decks to watch matchups with. It's just so cool. it's so cool how like all the interactions between cards work. You know, it's very fair. It doesn't really sack, but it can still be good sometimes. I think the deck is pretty severely underrated. I think it just creates like these games that are just long enough to be fun without going like too long. But also it's like not floodgatey or whatever like some of these cringier things up here are. Yeah, Quick Draw, I just really like Quick Draw. I love Quick Draw. I think it's super cool. I think everyone kind of likes Quick Draw. It's the deck that won the original SJC. It's just a very base deck, so, you know, it's going down here. So that completes the tier list, the Toxicity tier list. I think this looks about kind of what I was envisioning. Maybe Dragon Turbo should be up here, but I kind of didn't want to put it up there. Yeah, you could have probably argued to switch some things around a little bit, but I think we're pretty close. I think definitely, I'm very confident about these top ones up here being the most toxic. But yeah, let me know what you thought in the comments section. Definitely be sure to tell me why I was wrong about Gladiator Beast. Why Gladiator Beast is actually the healthiest deck in the entire format. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you tomorrow. As always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Furthermore, if you enjoy my content, you should think about becoming a channel member. You get access to tons of bonus content, and it's a great way to help support the channel.